Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my Total War Warhammer 3 Domination Mode tier list. So we're going to be going through all of the factions in the game, discussing why they're good or why they're bad, and just breaking it down. So there will be a separate video coming up relatively soon. Once I get to play a little bit more land battle action, I'll be doing a separate tier list on land battles as well. But again, today's video is going to be focused on the constraints of Domination Mode, as it really does make a big difference. For example, a faction like Cathay, which may struggle in Domination Mode because of the fact that it's a little bit harder to maintain harmony when you have to play and spread out for 3 objectives instead of having like a central unified army, is going to struggle, right? Whereas in land battles, they can really have an entrenched position. They can have effective artillery play with open field. In Domination Mode has lanes and has many issues to deal with for a faction like Cathay. Anyways, hope that's helpful. Let's get started. Starting with the D tier faction, you guys are going to be a little bit surprised. I've actually had a change of heart, been playing a lot of games on ladder and testing it out. And of course, my experience in the closed and kind of preview build was against like a handful of players, right? But now that I've been able to see a little bit more action and practice against different players, I've come to a pretty strong conclusion, at least in my opinion, that Nurgle is hands down the worst faction. Like, I was really thinking about it. I was like, okay, what, good matchups does Nurgle have? Nurgle is actually not favored against Cathay. I mean, that's probably one of their better matchups, but Cathay's cannons can obliterate the big monsters. Longbow riders can control the skies and mobility pretty well, and even the haggard Cathay cavalry is not bad at like hammering the Nurgle mobility. And overall, like, I do actually feel like Cathay is slightly favored against Nurgle. And aside from that, Nurgle against Slaanesh is like almost impossible if the Slaanesh player is good. Nurgle against Khorne is probably their best matchup, although I would still argue that it's slightly Khorne favored, maybe like 55-45, but that is probably Nurgle's best matchup now that I think about it. And against Kislev, Nurgle is not favored at all. Against Tzeentch, you just get annihilated. And against Ogres, you get annihilated as well. So really, I just feel like Nurgle in Domination Mode, the only decent matchup they have is like Khorne and maybe Cathay. Like, those are the only two I would want to run into as Nurgle. Everyone else just feels like a really bad time. And another thing about Nurgle is your opponents typically have like all of the agency on the battlefield. They really dictate the pacing of the fights. You're playing a very reactionary playstyle, which is fine if you're Slaanesh because you're super quick and can react well, but Nurgle does not react well. People really see what you have coming, like in terms of reinforcements too, because in land battles, like Nurgle has their army together, they can have a more focused strategy, but in Domination Mode, Nurgle's like, you get reinforcements, but they're slow as hell, and your opponent's reinforcements get there quicker, and they just like make more of an impact, and it's really tough for my boy Nurgle, which is a shame because I was really excited to play them in Domination Mode. I figured they might be good on objectives, but based on the unit roster and the performance of those units, they're just not great. Like, they don't have too many good units. You have the Forsaken, which are good. The Rotflies and all the flying units are pretty good. The Heralds and Lords aren't bad, but just like so many haggard things. Like the Plague Toads are pretty darn mediocre. Plague Bearers are just very bad as well, in my opinion. I mean, they're okay in some matchups. I like Plague Bearers against like Slaanesh, for example, because they're tanky and can survive, but overall, I'm just not a huge fan. And I think Nurgle, sadly, is going to be the D tier faction. Now, in terms of C tier, it's going to be Cathay, C for Cathay. I've had a little bit of a revelation about them. Now, hear me out. Cathay is actually pretty decent against Kislev. I feel like that matchup is somewhat even. The Grand Cannons can trade very well against the War Sleds, so if they're spamming War Sleds against you, you can blast them. The slight infantry advantage, I would say, of course, for Kislev, but if you go with Grand Cathay and have like the Constellation of the Dragon, some of their really good magic, you can actually do reasonably well for yourself. And also some of the shooting that Cathay has, Kossars get outshot by Jade Warrior Crossbowmen, and also the Hand Cannoneers aren't terrible against Kislev, depending on the circumstances. And your lords can certainly be bullies too, whether it's a Dragon Lord or some of the basic caster lords. I would say probably that matchup is 55-45 in Kislev's advantage, just because I think the roster has more good units, better cavalry, better shooting. Streltsy are pretty much better than all of those units, but you can even bring in Celestial Crossbowmen to trade okay against them as well. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing. And of course, these Terracotta Sentinels are good as always. And this is another reason why I think Cathay is actually better than Nurgle and why they're C tier here on today's list, is that Cathay is actually decent against Ogres. Like, I played a lot of testing with Ogres, even with the broken Iron Blasters. You can actually trade super well because 2 Cathay cannons will absolutely dominate an Iron Blaster. On top of that, Gorgers actually, you have a lot of halberds, right? You have cheap Peasant Spears, which if you gold chevron can really hold back Ogres surprisingly well. You have halberds, and the bow shooting is quite effective against Ogres too. Jade Knights, the Jade Lancers actually can hold back Saber Tusks, unlike Cornhounds, and it really doesn't feel terrible. And against Khorne, you can go double Terracotta Sentinel and actually win that with Miao Ying, even though it's slightly Khorne favored. And against Tzeentch, of course, it's still Tzeentch favored, but like you have some options against them. So I really feel like Cathay is not as bad as Nurgle. Like, you have better chances across the board if you're blind picking like Cathay, for example, on ladder. Whereas with Nurgle, it's like you're going to basically pray that they pick one of 2 factions, or 2 of 7 factions that you can actually fight. Now, B tier, it's going to be Slaanesh. Slaanesh, some of you guys might be surprised by this. I'm taking into account user kind of error because Slaanesh is amazing. If you have Slaanesh in the hands of like a Dark Tyrant of Micro, someone like Anticity or these guys who are really, really good in tournaments, Slaanesh I would say is like probably A tier, like 100%. But on the same coin, if you're an average player or a new player, I would say that Slaanesh is going to be much lower, like maybe even C tier, because if you leave Slaanesh units in Micro, you don't cycle charge, you don't find the best possible engagements you can find in domination mode, they can struggle. As such, I would say Slaanesh is B tier, but I'm really almost like on the fence about putting them into A tier. Like, I think you honestly could just say A tier for them, but I think you have to take into account like ease of play, because that is a big factor, right? They're tougher to play than other factions. Your timings have to be great. I've had a lot of games with Slaanesh where, you know, I can get melted if I miss Micro or forget about a unit. You forget about your Lord for a second, they can die super quick. They have like 5 armor. So, you know, even some haggard peasant archers can drag them down and do thousands and thousands of damage. Now, coming up with A tier, there's going to be 2 factions here. It will be Khorne, it will be Kislev. They're both A tier factions. Khorne is probably one of the most consistent, easy to play, and strong factions in the game. They have great stats across their infantry. You don't have to worry about using magic, which of course is nice for a lot of units. And they have spell resist too, which is great. So if you're facing like OP pendulums or other things like that, they can endure. Khorne dogs are one of the best units in the game. They actually beat like Jade Lancers. They can kill like any skirmish cavalry. They're excellent anti-light. They can goon casters. They're just so solid. Lore choices for Khorne are amazing. The Herald is really good on his Bulldog mount. Also, we have the Exalted Bloodthirster, which is such a good gooning flying character. And Scarbrand has like an AoE rampage. Khorne warriors with halberds, insane. Bloodletters basically dominate any armored infantry, especially from Kislev and Cathay. And just like a ton of great tools. They have a couple meme units on the roster, like the Skull Cannon and Blood Shrine, but even those aren't like the worst things in the world. And they're really easy to play. Basically with Khorne, you summon one Khorne warrior with halberds, put it on your back objective, and just get like a goon squad of just like good stuff and just move and go pound your opponent. Very simple to play. Really tough to remove off objectives because they have a ton of armor and durability, and honestly, they feel more durable than Nurgle. Like, obviously, they don't have heals, but it just feels like more staying power. Probably because they can actually kill what they're fighting. But yeah, Khorne is insane. And Kislev is really good too. Kislev is slightly harder to play than Khorne, but they have some really powerful units. Bear Sleds, amazing. Kislev's army passive ability, which is the Buy Our Blood trait, insane. They basically become unbreakable, which on a game mode in which objectives are the high value is just so good, man. It's so good. And good lords too. Katarine's pretty good. Rasputin is great. He's got like healing, incredibly tough to snipe. Their basic caster lords are awesome. They have access to summons of the snow leopards. Streltsy are awesome. Basic Kossars. What I really like about Kislev is the fact that their hybrid units are good. Like having hybrid spear archers is great. They're like Lothar and Seaguard, but a little bit cheaper. Having your basic armored infantry with pistols to like react to an immediate air threat or snipe an enemy lord who got away from them, super good. Like normally, you know, let's say you have like a big lord land in the middle of your Kossars and wants to cycle charge you. Well, as soon as it runs away, they're going to whip those fat pistols out and shoot you. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the most OP unit on the roster, which are the Bear Sleds. Insane. Dominates pretty much any infantry in combat, except halberds, of course, if they sit in halberds. The shooting is super good at sniping. If you put them in guard mode, you can just like, even if they're fighting infantry, you can just like shoot at something else with their shots. It's so good. And honestly, they trade pretty damn well against armored cavalry too. If you have the Bear Sleds, especially the heavy ones, fighting like Jade Lancers or enemy armored cav, like they can take it like champs. And if you stack that with like a Patriarch, it's just value city. Now, coming in with the S tier, we have 2 factions. It's going to be Tzeentch as well as Ogres. Now, Ogre Kingdoms would probably be A tier if it weren't for the Iron Blasters and Gorgers. Gorgers are disgustingly broken. Disgustingly broken. We don't need to talk too much about that. Sustaining power with Scrag, huge armor piercing, unbreakable, just like they just perform way above their pay grade. Undercosted. Iron Blasters, the most disgusting thing in the game, basically. They can like 2-shot your characters. Also, if somebody wants to abuse like kind of a bug in the game of sorts, they can shoot and then they can manual shoot right away with the double tap, as we call it, and just like 1-shot your stuff. They're broken, they're heavily armored, they're mobile, incredibly tough to snipe. Even if your opponent has artillery, they have like 60 speeds. You can like hide them and pop out and shoot and hide, and it's gonna like mess up your opponent's line of sight. They're just so gross, and I really hope they get fixed because I'm just gonna have to limit them to 1 of my tournaments, if not like, you know, do more. They're just like, they're so busted. But aside from that, like the rest of the Ogre roster, like Scrag's really good, Tyrants are good. They have a ton of great units. Like all the Ogre Bulls are like 54 speed. The Saber Tusks are good. Leadbelters are an awesome unit. Even the Man-Eaters with pistols can actually be reasonably good. They have meme units like the Noblar Scrap Launchers, an absolute piece of crap. But, you know, and like some of the Man-Eater units are kind of like, why would you bring those? Iron Guts are really good. Like they just have an awesome, fun roster. Great chaff units like Noblars are so good at capturing objectives. Let's say your opponent has, An Exalted Plague Bearer. Okay, costs 1,300 gold. It's on an objective. Well, I'm going to summon 2 Noblars and surround it and steal the objective from you for 400 gold. It's crazy good. And if a slower infantry unit can't capture them, you can just juke back and forth and you'll still get the objective from them. It's like insane. Ogres are great. And Tzeentch, what do I have to say? Infinite regeneration on Protoss shields, disgusting Lord sniping, extremely cost-effective units. The blues and the pinks are really good. Flamers of Tzeentch pretty much kill anything they point at. Chaos Knights are great. Doom Knights are great. Spawn of Tzeentch are good. I mean, the infinite healing is just gross. Let's say you have a big fight with Tzeentch, okay? You barely lose it. Your entire force, gets hammered, but so does Tzeentch. But they're going to get those shields regen, especially on their SEMs. So they can infinite, and I know shields are tied to the health in the model, so yeah, it can still be mitigated, but it's just so much free health that they're getting back. If you don't quite, damage them, poking Tzeentch is usually really crappy because even if you poke them, it's just they're just going to angle the unit so you can't shoot them more until it comes back. It's really tough. And Tzeentch is incredibly strong. Now, I think Tzeentch does have a couple hard matchups. I think that Kislev is actually really good against Tzeentch. I'm starting to feel that way after seeing them and playing against them in a couple tournaments. The Bear Sleds basically countered the whole Tzeentch roster. I feel like, Slaanesh can actually do okay, but the problem is the Slaanesh Lords just get instant sniped by Kairos with a Gaze of Fate and double blue fire. So, I don't know. I guess Slaanesh is probably a pretty bad matchup, but Kislev is good, okay there. Khorne can trade okay. They have good spell resist. Ogres into Tzeentch is relatively fine. It depends. Your Lord can still be sniped, so you have to take that into consideration. But overall, Tzeentch is so strong. I would say that withholding, not including Iron Blasters, Iron Blasters and Gorgers make Ogres probably the strongest faction, but if those were restricted by tournament rules, I would say Tzeentch is probably the strongest faction. Followed, Tzeentch and Ogre Kingdoms are definitely tied for strongest faction. And again, A tier is Khorne and Kislev, B tier is Slaanesh, C is Cathay, and D tier is Nurgle. So hopefully that breakdown helped, just kind of explaining my thoughts on the matter. And I'd love to see your opinions as well. I think the one that many of you guys may dissent from my opinions is probably going to be Slaanesh, being higher ranked, which I could potentially agree with. I was really on the fence, but I do think that Slaanesh is a little bit harder to play. So that's it for now. Appreciate you all. Be back with my other tier list soon, and we'll see you guys next time.